Okay, if everybody could take their seats, we'll get started on this playing rule proposal, part of this open forum.
And I know you have your own, well, I'm on mic, I'll talk to you later. Okay. Excuse me.
Okay, my name is Kevin McLaughlin. I'm the Senior Director of Hockey Development for USA Hockey here in Colorado Springs. I'd like to introduce my panel. We have Bill Hall as our chairperson of the Body Checking Subcommittee. We have Bob Mancini. He's our ADM Regional Manager for the Upper Midwest, including Michigan, Missouri, and Illinois. Mike McMillan is our National Coach-in-Chief. Dave Labuda is our National Referee-in-Chief. And our President, Ron DiGregorio. Today, the goal of this session is to help explain how this body checking playing rule proposal has evolved over the last 2.5 years. Who's been involved with this discussion? It's not just the people you see up here. There are a lot of people that have been directly involved. What the actual plan includes and the purpose behind it, which is to ultimately develop more better hockey players. How this initiative can be developed and implemented. And then hopefully there'll be some time for some questions and some feedback and comments from those of you in the audience. The ultimate goal is so that everybody fully understands this. Our experience over the last 18 months has been, obviously there's some a very emotional reaction, a lot of misunderstanding, and when we've had the opportunity to sit down and talk with people, we all have the same goals. We all want kids to enjoy their hockey experience. We all want them to reach whatever potential that may be, whether it's a recreational player that just enjoys playing the game, or whether it's somebody that wants to be an elite player and reach their potential and play on a national team or Olympic team or whatever that might be as far as their dreams go. So with that, we'll get started here, and I'll turn the mic over to our chairman, Bill Hall.
Thank you, Kevin. I just want to take just a couple of moments to give you a very brief timeline of the subcommittee's work leading to the recommendation, which is Proposal 94 and the playing rules proposal, which will limit body checking to begin at the Bantam level or the 14 and under level. It will alter the rules, so legal body checking will not be allowed at the 12 and under level. However, as you will hear, the end recommendation is to improve upon the teaching of what is legal body contact in the sport at the younger ages. This idea was born in the December of 2009. It was brought to the Playing Rules Committee, or Playing Player Development Committee, and Jim Smith designated me as the chairman of the subcommittee to study body checking at the 12 and under level. I met with Kevin McLaughlin, and we constructed a committee, a subcommittee, consisting of Roger Grillo and Bob Mancini, the ADM managers, Al McGinnis, retired of the St. Louis Blues and the Hockey Hall of Fame, Mike Milbury, former player, coach, general manager, currently a TV commentator with NBC and Versus, Dr. Michael Stewart of the Mayo Clinic and the Chief Medical Officer for USA Hockey, and of course Kevin was the staff liaison. We had the first conference call that we had, the mission statement was defined as, the study group will examine the impact that body contact and body checking has on skill development at the 12 and under age classification. The examination will include the collection of all relevant materials available that contain training and other educational resources related to body contact and body checking in the sport of ice hockey. To that end, we collected a great deal of information. A lot of it were the results of medical studies that were done. We started out, it should be important that we started out with this as a skill development issue, and probably 3 minutes into the first conference call, Mike Milbury said that we cannot disregard the safety issue. So while number one concern was skill development, the number two concern was player safety. So Dr. Stewart very carefully, walked us through all the legal terms, the medical terms that were in the studies. Kevin McLaughlin and the hockey department did a great job of editing the great deal of the video material that the subcommittee looked at in the course of the 3 conference calls to study this subject. It resulted in the playing rule proposal being submitted, and that leads us to the amendments session that was in January, and then today to this presentation, and then to the vote on Saturday.
Thank you, Bill. We'll turn it over to Bob for the bulk of the presentation here. He's going to go through a PowerPoint that he has, and then Mike and Dave are here to represent the coaching and the officiating, and they'll answer questions or briefly describe the implementation process from their contingencies, and then Ron here to make some closing comments.
Nope, I'm good. All right, thank you. My job is really to walk you through from where we started and where we are now, kind of paint the whole picture. I'll try to go through it quickly. There's obviously some very important stuff that we've talked about. I'm going to start by painting the picture by giving you the end first. And then we're going to go back to the beginning. We're going to complete the full circle. So we start, if I could have
yes, certainly. Well, here we are in sunny Bratislava at the World Hockey Championships, and this very important question, I think, is in an opportune place for us to discuss this. I think first and foremost, the unfortunate thing is the argument or the actual topic tends to degenerate into one that's really just at an emotional level rather than really looking at what's in the best interests of children and youth, and particularly children and youth who we should be interested in trying to set up the conditions by which they will actually learn to the best of their ability this absolutely wonderful game. And obviously any situation where you actually will slow down or retard that level of instructional benefit and learning is a cause for us to have serious concerns. And any situation where there is any kind of perceived outside threat is likely to alter the rate at which a child will learn. So one of the most important things of raising the age as suggested is it allows the children to have 2 full seasons of extra growth and maturation and learning the fundamentals and slightly more intermediary levels of hockey. So this is everything to do with skating, puck handling, passing, receiving the puck, decision making, at least at the levels of age groups that we're actually talking about, prior to bringing in a level of instruction around what is classically seen in the more adult version of the game, where people will focus on things such as open ice hitting, aka in this modern era checking. But of course checking is a very advanced and multifaceted element involving all sorts of things, from really a pressure on a stick through to angling, through to being able to apply pressure on the shoulder with a player adjacent to you, through obviously eventually to more of the familiar collisions that one might see, whether they're direct or not. One of the most important things, of course, around this is actually even the emotional decision making of the youngster, whereby they would make a decision perhaps to move into a sort of checking position, if you like, but whether or not they actually have the underlying skills to execute something that would be, 1, beneficial for them in the game, or 2, even safe for both themselves as well as the person that would be on the receiving end of any kind of real physical play. So there are a number of real challenges around this. The other aspect around the whole concept and the arguments is the fact that we need to wrap this up in the whole environment for hockey. I think the decision making of the officials to make sure that they actually ensure that the games at each particular age group are officiated at a consistent level and an appropriate level for the age and skill that's actually playing that particular game, whether they're 9 or 10, 11 or 12, 13, 14, whatever the age group. Second thing, of course, is the curriculum that the coaches are actually coaching and teaching to the youngsters in the particular age group, and whether or not they really take a long-term view of what they're dealing with. And what I mean by that is, let's say I'm coaching the Pee-wee age group, so the 11 to 12-year-olds. Do I understand where those new 11-year-olds adults coming into that age group come from? Am I prepared to make sure that I spend enough time dealing with their deficiencies, if they have any, coming out of that age group? Remember, they're all going to be different shapes and sizes. And taking the 2 years to take the time to make sure I hand them off to the bantam level, equipped with the next level of skills and skill execution, particularly under pressure, i.e. in competition, that they can utilize at the next age group. Then on top of that, you know, we come back to, well, what is the curriculum? What are the guidelines that are suggested by coaching organizations, and particularly USA Hockey, around these are the type of things we really want to see put into place and the youngsters being taught, and then actually then do those things in a competition, aka exam situation. And then I think finally for me, of course, is the thing of trying to deal with the emotional aspect, which involves all of us adults, coaches, the officials, the parents, of course, and even just bystanders who may be a grandma and grandpa coming to watch the youngster play, is that we need to understand what is the purpose of the game for these youngsters, and particularly as they come through major periods of growth. Surely we're putting them in to have an enjoyable experience, certainly to learn the rigors of the game, be able to execute skills to a reasonable level, and enjoy the overall experience, so they want to move on to the next level and feel that they're actually gaining in their understanding and their execution of the skill. So I think we need to try and remove ourselves as adults from what we see at the senior level, whether it's the NHL, the World Championships, the Pro Leagues in Europe, about our expectations, and understand what is correct and appropriate for the kids, and the classic issue of let kids be kids.
Norris is one of the world's leading experts on long-term athletic development. You see his title up there. He's worked with Hockey Canada for the last 15 years, and he's also responsible for the phrase at the last Olympics for the Canadian Olympic program of Own the Podium. And the reason I wanted to start with this is I think he does a great job of laying out not only what he believes is right and what we should do, but he lays out what are the things that we need to be concerned with as we move forward. I apologize, right? I can't sit behind the table, just like I can't talk without, it's an Italian thing, without moving my hands, okay? So I need to walk, and I'm trying not to make people dizzy here. But we needed to start with that. Now, as I told you, we're going to go to the beginning, and we're going to walk everybody through on how we got there. First, there was the ADM experiment. And interestingly enough, it happened by accident. All the ADM managers were here in the Springs. We were doing some video shoots to put down some stuff for ADM training. We had a squirt session on the ice, and we had a pee-wee session. And what happened was we did the first half of practice, 3/4 of practice, was 6 skill-based stations where we worked on player skills. And then the second part of that practice, we let the kids play. 3-on-3 cross ice, 4-on-4, some small area games. And it was very obvious to everyone that in the squirt practice, in the 10 and under practice, the kids who dominated the skill-based stations dominated the play. The same kids who could skate, shoot, pass, score in the stations, when we came to the games, they dominated, just like you thought they would. But when we did the exact same practice with the Pee-wees, it was completely different. The kids who dominated the stations, the kids who were our best skilled players, when we turned to the games, all of a sudden, they weren't the dominant players. The focus changed. The dominant players became the kids who were out there trying to hit people, not check, but ram people into the boards, blow up hits. We should have known this was going to happen, because before every station, when the kids would move, the Pee-wees would get to the station, the guy in charge, and say, "Is there hitting at this station?" It was the first thing they were focused on. So we got back to the office, and we started discussing. Every single one in the room saw the same thing. It just hit us over the head. There's something different in the culture between squirt and Pee-wee that changes the game completely. So as we first started looking at this, we thought, oh, this is really good, because we're going to increase the skill development of the players. All right? And one of the things that we talked about was, oh, this will be great for the small players. That's what everybody first thought, all right? This is really going to increase those little kids, those small players who are skilled. We're going to make them more skilled, all right? Then we started talking, we thought, you know what? In reality, This might even affect the bigger, stronger, more mature players even more. Because what we saw is happening, and we saw it throughout this year as we did our experiments all over the country like this, is the bigger players' skills are really being neglected. We bring them into Pee Wee and we find their niche because they're older, they're bigger, they're stronger, they're more mature. We put them on our teams and they find this niche which allows them to compete. Go out and hammer kids, intimidate, blow up hits. And then as they move on to Bantam and Midget, a lot of those same kids fall by the wayside because we use them for something at Pee Wee and we don't do a good job of continuing to develop their skills like the others. So right away we thought, I think we're onto something here, and we went to the Player Development Committee and said, here's what we found, here's what we think. The Player Development Committee said, we need to put together a subcommittee. So they put together the body checking subcommittee that Bill Hall just spoke about, and he already went through. I'll go through this quickly. There you have the chair, the staff liaison, and everybody who was on the committee. So that's how the thing started. This was the mission statement, which Bill also read to you. The impact that body contact and body checking has on skill development. We looked at this as a skill development issue. That's all it was. How could we increase the skill development of our players? That's how this whole thing started. It was our primary reason for discussion. And what do we know? What does long-term athletic development tells us, right? The American development model tells us that the ages of 9 to 12 is the optimal window of skill acquisition. It's the golden age of skill development. As coaches, we have 4 years to make the biggest impact on our players in terms of improving their technique and their skill level. That's where they're going to make the biggest jumps. Yes, we know later on, because long-term athletic development tells us we can continually increase the skill of our players. But we know that these 4 years, our players are going to make the biggest strides than they do at any other time in their life. So it was about skill acquisition. As we talked about it more, one of the things that came up, and a lot of you have mentioned this to me and to our staff as we go around the country, is, but wait, checking is a skill. Checking is a core skill. And that's true. Not only is checking a core skill, but checking can be learned. It can be trained. It can be developed. So we really, instead of saying, oh, wait a second, let's get rid of checking, we had to look at it and say, we need to keep checking in the equation. This is one of the skills that we're talking about. What can we do about body checking in, once again, this golden age of skill development to improve our players? We had to change our perspective. We all need, and you heard Dr. Norris talk about it, Pee-wees are not miniature NHLers. And we as adults, we have to stop looking at it like that. When we watch a Pee-wee game, when we coach Pee-wees, we're not coaching the same kids that we coach when they're adults. They're different. They're Pee-wees. They're 10 going on 11, 11 going on 12. And what do we know? We know Pee-wees need more development. We know they need 2 more years of physical maturation. We know they need 2 more years of cognitive development. And we know they can use 2 more years of hockey development so we can fully get them or get them to where we want them to go. There's some things we shouldn't ask of our kids. There's some things we wouldn't dream of asking of our kids. And that's what I talk about changing the perspective. We have to look at a Pee-wee, that 11-year-old, of who he is and not what we see in the NHL game. So, as we're doing this, and as we're talking about just skill development, Dr. Carolyn Emery comes out with her study out of the University of Toronto. All right, and Bill mentioned about Mike Milbury saying that because, boom, here it was. Now, you know what this stopped? This stopped the age-old argument that we've had in USA Hockey forever, that you have in bars all the time, right? Is one guy saying, we got to teach checking younger because that's when it's best, that's how the kids will learn how to protect themselves. And the other guy saying, oh, no, we got to move it older. We got to, safety. But there was nothing. There was no scientific basis, no fact behind the safety argument. It was two guys in a bar having a few beers, yelling at each other because of what they believed. The emotional argument that Dr. Norris talked about. So Dr. Emery came out with this study, and what did we find out? That we finally have 10 years worth of data behind us, and it's true. Introducing full body checking at a younger age gives us 3 times the number of game-related injuries and the categories of concussion. You can read that on your own. We've all seen it. If you haven't seen Dr. Stewart's great YouTube 36-minute video where he goes into all this, you need to go ahead and watch that. Another fantastic piece. So we went from all skill development to, as Mike Milbury said, we can't ignore this. There it was. And then right after that, the Mayo Clinic hosted a concussion symposium, and they told us about the 11-year-old brain. They told us that the 11-year-old brain is more susceptible to getting a concussion. They told us that the 11-year-old brain is more susceptible to long-term damage once it's concussed. And they told us it takes longer to recover from a concussion, the 11-year-old brain. I didn't go to med school, but it seems like that's pretty good common sense. But here's the key. They also told us that the 11-year-old brain ability to anticipate the check while doing something else has not been developed. And that's scary. That's really scary. Because how many here have either played or now play adult hockey, right? A lot of people in the room. Go ahead, raise your hands. It's okay, right? We're all here for hockey. All right? We love the game. Think about when you were playing, or some of you might still play in a checking league. What's the most important thing you have to protect yourself from injury? As an adult, your stick. As your adult, well, and if anybody saw Danny Brennan play, yeah. Your ability to anticipate. Your ability to get out of the way of a check, to anticipate, to position your body to protect yourself. 11-year-olds do not have that. How many here have heard of impact concussion testing? Anybody? Okay, we all heard it, right? You get on the computer, you do the test, and if you get hit in the melon, right, what happens? You can't get back on the ice until you get back, and you're in the same range on the test. Doctor out of Chicago, Karhalis, I believe his name is. It's a Greek name, which I'm not very good at, Greek names. If it had a vowel at the end, there'd be no problem. He works with the NBA. He also works with high school sports all over Illinois. And he was asked the question because a lot of states are going to this impact concussion testing. They're putting it in laws, legislating it for high school athletics, all right? And he was asked, well, when can we do it? And his answer was, as athletes move into high school at 13 and 14 years old. You know why? Under the age of 13, the brain is not developed enough to get a baseline to make the test valid. Now really think about that. We can't even have a valid baseline to test 10, 11, and 12-year-olds on whether or not they're concussed. Because why? Because the brain is not developed enough. Yet we've put them in this position of being body checked at too young of an age. So these kept coming at us. So now it's gone from not only the way we look at peewees, but from a skill development issue to also a skill development and a safety issue. We came up with the proposal. And everybody, I hope, has seen the whole proposal. Because a lot of the problems we've had with the proposal is everybody just thought the proposal was moving body checking to Bantam. And now in June, we all know that's not true. It's about full body checking in Bantam games instead of peewees. We want to teach increased body checking at the peewee level and give them the opportunity to practice this in practice for 2 years, which will provide us with 6 years of coaching. And we want to increase body contact, which so many people have been saying at the youngest ages. Body contact. So what it's going to look like is simply this. At 8 and under, because we want everybody, and because hopefully we're moving to cross-ice hockey, There's going to be more body contact, more kids bumping into each other, falling down, getting up, incidental contact, because we're putting them in a smaller surface because we know it's good for their development. At 10 and under, we want more practices with more small area games, more progressions of drills where they have body contact amongst each other to get them ready or continue the education. At Pee Wee, to teach full body checking and practice, again, what we talked about before, more time with the Pee Wees to develop, to mature, to learn this. And then, introduction of full body checking at Bantam. The NHL perspective, Mike Milbury, for when he first got on the conference, on the committee, he has a Pee Wee, and he told a story about his Pee Wee son, who in his very first game of checking hockey this past season, goes into the corner and the very first time gets hammered and falls down in a heap. And after the game, Mike, who's a pretty tough player, right? Mike goes over and he's going to be a good father and a good coach, and he starts to explain to his son what he has to do when going in the corner to protect himself. And his son stops and says, "Oh, don't worry, Dad, I'm never going in the corner again." There's a lot of that we overlook for our Pee Wees. Al McGinnis was on the committee. Al McGinnis was dead set against moving body checking to Bantam when the committee started. Dead set against it, won the Quebec Pee Wee tournament, which is a no-check at that time, a complete no-check tournament, and started in the committee dead set against it. Once he went through this stuff and realized we're not taking the physicality out of the game, but rearranging how we teach it and what we do, he has become now one of the biggest advocates of the rule proposal as it stands. Brendan Shanahan at the World Hockey Summit last year, and we all know Brendan Shanahan came out and said, interestingly enough, he played on a body contact Pee Wee league. His Pee Wee hockey team that he played on was body contact and not body checking. Pretty good player, pretty gritty, pretty tough. Even if you don't like the teams he played for, I think we can all agree where he is. Do you know who the best defenseman on Brendan Shanahan's Pee Wee no-check hockey team was? Brian Marchment. Brian Marchment is one of the leaders in career penalty minutes in the NHL. Brian Marchment learned what he needed to do without having to play checking hockey at Pee Wee. In fact, Brendan Shanahan's comment was, if it's in you, it's in you.
I'm going to talk about the ADM, but I do want to put in my 2 cents worth on the hitting issue. I am captain fighting in the National Hockey League. My trademark for my teams is that they're physical, and I cannot agree more with this approach. I think it's insane. I coached my son when he was a Pee Wee. I remember we were playing one time and he got run from behind. He's a tough kid. He got run from behind. And I had to go out on the ice. He was lying there and he was just sobbing. And this is a kid I've never seen him cry. Like, he's a tough kid. And I helped him up and took him back to the benches. And I walked by the bench of the other teams. The only time I ever yelled at a coach on another team, I said, that kid wouldn't see the ice for 2 weeks. He was on my team. That kid who just delivered that hit, he would sit for 2 weeks. But you're an imbecile, and you're probably going to play him on the next shift. So I support this fully. This is going to go back and sell us these parents who have a different vision of how hockey should be played, because it's all they know. They're ignorant. It doesn't mean they're stupid. They're uninformed. It doesn't mean they can't be changed. That's your job. This is the way to go. And I tell you confidently, this will be copied in lots of other countries in a hurry, because this is the best way to develop young players. And I would couple with that the hitting change. We don't need hitting in Pee Wee. We need to teach it. We need to coach it. We need to prevent contact. We don't need hitting. It just gets kids to quit, is what it does. And it does not enhance skill development. In our league, hitting is designed to separate a player from the puck primarily, and secondarily to discourage enthusiastic participation by that player in the later part of the game. I don't see the separation aspect when I watch Pee Wee hockey now. I see, guys, the goal is not the puck. The goal is, can I knock this guy down? Can I hurt this player? We need to take it up to the Bantam level, teach it properly, coach it properly, teach players what part it is in the game. It is an important part of the game, but it can't be the object of the game. The object is still the scoreboard, and that's what we're losing sight of. So I support this change as well.
Interesting, right? Because he makes the distinction between body checking or full body checking and body contact. All right? I want you to think of your favorite NHL team, because we've got people from all over the United States. So it doesn't matter what NHL team it is. But I want you to think about your favorite NHL team, and I want you to think in your mind how many players on your favorite NHL team actually hit. I challenge anybody to give me an NHL team that has more than 5 players who hit as part of their job description of what they do. It's not out there. It's not out there. But now think of your NHL team, your favorite NHL team, and think about how many players use body position, angling, rubbing out players, or body contact to gain the puck or to control the play. 15 out of your 18 skaters, 16. 17 with the Blackhawks. Maybe Patrick doesn't do it, but everybody else does. Patrick doesn't have to when you're at that level, right? But that's the distinction that Brian makes, and that's the distinction that we believe we need to make starting at a young age. After that, the NHL, this slide's a little too big, but since that time, Dave Klasnick has come to us and said, the Pittsburgh Penguins have read the material. They understand where they're going. They get it. Not a bad hockey player at the top there who's figuring out. And by the way, played no-check hockey or body contact hockey as a peewee and growing up in Quebec. The Chicago Blackhawks, Jim Smith tells us that the Chicago Blackhawks have come and said the same thing. They get it. Support where they're going. Understand the need for the rule proposal. Peter Laviolette contacted the national office in support. Keith Tkachuk contacted the national office in support. So we're moving through the same thing we get here as a body is the more we find out, the more we understand where we're going, the more support we're getting for it's the right thing. Why? Because it's the right thing for kids. So let's get to some clips so we know where we're going here. There's your definition of legal body contact. And when a penalty should not be called. A couple other points, penalties not being called. So let's see where that brings us. Great angle, great body position. And you'll see as we go through this, we're not taking the physicality out of the game. Think of all the skills that just happened there with that defenseman, what he had to do just in this sequence alone. Backwards, turning, forward, stopping, gapping up, getting position on the forward. More legal angling and bumping, riding players off into the boards, gaining your ice position, stick on the ice. We haven't seen one play with the hands up or running guys to intimidate as opposed to trying to get the puck. And you'll see clips from all different levels, right? You see women's national level clips, you see Pee-wees, you'll see men's national team clips. Let me move on. Battles for the puck, D-men playing battles, battles that will be legal. Stick on, fighting for the puck. Establishing his skating lane, stick on the ice, playing for the puck, not a penalty. Contact along the boards. The game will become about the puck again, which is what it should always be about. There are Pee-wee's games, and I know there are people in here I've talked to. You can go to Pee-wee games throughout the nation, and if you could invisibly get on the ice and take the puck away, it'd be 20 seconds before some players realized. I mean, that's what we're trying to get away from. More physical play, less violent play. Legal net front play. Watch this in the circle. Great use of body position and size and strength. Just in that little clip, just the amount of movement of the feet for the players, both on offense and on defense, that they're forced to make because of the way the game is played. When a penalty should be called, we'll go to some clips that'll be penalties. If a player intentionally plays the body with no intent to play the puck, uses hips and shoulders in a violent manner, leaves an established skating lane, you can see it here, or finishes the check. A lot of people have asked, well, why do we need the rule proposal? Why don't we just call the rule as is in the book? Even the rule in the book doesn't get to where we want to go. Why? Because the rule in the book allows you to finishing the check. The rule in the book allows a player to get rid of the pass and still get hit. We go back to the Pee-wee and the awareness thing. The rule in the book, as long as you don't hit somebody with the elbow, allows me to come up high on a player and try to intimidate him. So calling the rule book really does not do what this proposal is asking for us to do. I'm going to go through these really quick in the interest of time. So no attempt to play the puck, and you can see right here. And I'll just show you this one last clip because
from the face-off, Bobby Ryan takes a shot from Dan Bertram, and the puck found in
there's going to be one here right in the corner I want to show you.
Tom Fritchie get across the line.
Again, no attempt to play the puck.
We'll try to leave it there.
I believe it's the next one. Right here. Watch the rotation of the D, puck down, boom. You know what? That's a great play. That's a great play. Just not in Pee-wee. Illegal net front. One clip right here.
Oh, it comes swarming up to Tanaka, and he's pushed off stride and pushed into the net, but the puck
pushed off the net, right? Nobody playing the puck, guy in front, just hammered to intimidate him and keep him away from the goalie. Finishing your check. No attempt to play the puck. Matter of fact, that player had already gotten rid of the puck. There's one more right here. Those are the blow-up hits we talk about that we have to get rid of. Mark Tabram talked about the coaching material that's already in place and being put in place with our video modules. If you go online to the ADM website, there's already 84 practices, I think, that all have some progression of teaching squirts about increased body contact and all kinds of drills just like this one with the ringette, where kids are forced to have their stick on the ice, playing that and learning how to have body contact instead of full body checking. We have tremendous materials that are done, including warm-up and off-ice materials that take you from the very basics all the way through, not just off-ice as this shows, but then go from these examples to on ice. So our parent education you've all been part of. I'm sorry, I want to just get through this real quick. Those are some of the things culminated with this booklet. If you haven't got one, you need to see this. This has also gone out to 2 email blasts to all our members. This booklet was converted into that. Around the U.S., we've gotten support from different hockey leagues. The Northwest Hockey League actually were progressive enough this spring to have a no-check Pee Wee League. And we've had tremendous reviews back from them, kids, parents, coaches, and referees, of what a success it was as they moved forward ahead of everybody else. In Hockey Canada, you just see some stats here on Ontario and Quebec representing 50% of the total membership, 52,000 Pee-wees. And with the rules they're putting in place there, 55% of Canada will now play non-check hockey at Pee-wee. Interestingly enough, Hockey Canada has tried to do what we're doing now, both in 1996 and 2002. And I think it's great now that they're looking for us to do the right thing in hopes that they follow us. I think that's a key thing for our organization as we move forward. Hockey Calgary, which is the largest federation in Alberta, which has 62,000 players, has started their discussions on how will they move Pee-wee to body contact Pee-wee. So, skill development, check. We know what it does for that. We know what it does for safety, and we believe that our proposal meets all those objectives. So let's keep our kids' passion, let's keep them in the game so we can develop better players. Thank you very much. Yeah, thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Bob. Now we'll turn it over to Dave LeBou to give us a quick update on the officiating program and preparation.
Thanks, Kevin. There certainly has been a lot of conversation about this topic, and it has included some comments about the officiating section, the referee section. And as part of this organization, and we are, of course, committed to this adventure, and to prepare our membership for this, it's important to make a few points here. The first one is that the whole concept of no check is not a new one to the referee section. We currently have mites and squirts, all of girls and women's, and a large portion of adult men's hockey that's no check. So a vast majority of our officiating membership currently work no check hockey games. So it's not a new concept to a vast majority of our membership. What we do intend on doing is we already have material, video material, educational material that goes into body contact versus body checking. We're going to add that to our yearly required seminar that all officials have to attend. It's important to also keep in mind with regards to this not being a new concept is that in many, many ways, this actually reduces the gray area of judgment for that particular age level for officials. Because now, when an official's working a Pee Wee game, then a body check occurs, they have to decide, first of all, is it a legal body check? And if so, does it fall within the framework of the current rule book? With this rule proposal, in essence, the gray area is almost completely reduced, and that body checking is certainly just not allowed. So therefore, it's going to be a penalty. So they won't have to decide whether it's a check from behind or a charge or a unnecessary roughness call. It's going to be an automatic penalty. So the concern with whether or not there's going to be inconsistency or our ability to educate officials really is not looking at it in a practical and realistic way. It's not a new concept. It's not something that's being taught for the first time. It's going to be incorporated as a significant part of our yearly seminars. And what we're simply going to do is reinforce and expand on exactly what is legal body contact versus illegal body checking at the Pee Wee age level. And that's the most important. And the thing to remember is, and once again, I consider myself a fairly practical individual. Yes, there might be a bump along the road here and there with an official who might not completely understand what we're trying to do at that level, but then it's our job to go in and further educate those people. But a vast majority of our officials have a responsibility and understand they have a responsibility to call the game according to the spirit and intent of the rules of the rule book, not according to their vision of the game. And that is something that we've worked very hard over the last several years, starting with the standard of enforcement to change that philosophy. And we believe, and hopefully you also believe, that we've brought the game significantly along in all aspects, as players, as coaches, as officials, as administrators, as parents. The last point to make is that what's going to make this a successful adventure is the fact that all aspects of the game, as I just mentioned, parents, coaches, players, officials, are going to be seeing the same material and will all be on the same page with regards to what is and is not acceptable behavior on the ice. And that's key, and I think that's something that will further enhance the smooth implementation of this from at least the officiating standpoint.
Thank you, David. Mike McMillan.
Thanks for having me up here. The coaching section is extremely excited as well about the rule proposal and this opportunity. And I know there's been a number of issues about delivery. Are we going to be able to deliver this skill component to the coaching education piece? And I'd make the argument we've been ready for years. I've just given Kevin some information that I want him to hold up. But, can you hold those up? Yeah. Okay. You're talking. Sorry about that, but we've been ready for years for body contact. We've been ready for years to do a better job with checking, and we actually have had materials in the can developed and given out to coaches for years and years. So Kevin's holding some of those materials up for you right now that are available. You're doing really good with the props. I like it. But our rollout will be very simple. This summer, we're training 260 of our instructors in the CEP program over 3 sites, at Kent State, at UConn, and Colorado. So we're going to train all of our instructors on our new curriculum. And in addition to that, we're going to be training those instructors on the new manuals. The new manuals will have body contact angling in level 1, 2, and 3. The instructors that will be coming in will also be getting the materials that Kevin just held up. So we think we're going to do a good job hitting of all of our instructors. It's something we haven't done for years. So we're excited about that. You've heard me talk earlier about rewriting our manuals. And again, each one of our manuals will have components on angling, body contact, and full checking. All the modules, as we heard earlier, will also have body contact, checking components in the modules. So from that standpoint, we're excited. In addition to that, the ADM regional managers in the CEP program and the CICs around the country are working on an implementation phase by November 1st that me and Kevin and Digger have been talking about, making sure that we get out to, in addition to the CEP clinics, in addition to the ADM clinics, that we also get out to each locale. So we touch every Pee Wee and under program in the country by November 1st, so they get the information that you just heard from Bob, and you get the information from the coaching and the referee section. So actually, we're fired up about that, and we're hoping by September 1st that we have the whole plan rolled out and ready to go. And me and Kevin talking, don't think that'll be too difficult to do because we have the staff in place, and I think the instructor seminar we're doing is going to be an exceptional opportunity to kind of launch that. So. Long story short, we think we're ready. We've been ready for years. We're excited about it. And so from the coaching section, that's really all that I have.
Great.
Are there any questions, first of all?
don't know if this is on or not. I wasn't loud enough before. Deb Dougal from New Hampshire Amateur Hockey. I just wonder what the consideration has been made about women's hockey, and in particular girls hockey. Some of the associations in my state are concerned that the no checking in Pee Wee will mean the end of some of their U10 and programs, and so I'm just curious as to, you know, if you've taken that into consideration and how that will affect the overall.
Donna, would you like to respond there?
For the girls and women's section, and number one, I would urge both you and anybody else to come on Friday to the girls and women's section meeting, where we will again be discussing this. But the answer to that is, in all the work that we do in ADM and membership have been doing, our concern is more in those areas. We've heard that argument, that how will this hurt, and will we not be able to sustain the development and growth we've had in girls hockey? We're doing a better job in all the areas, and especially this year, in getting more programs at 8 and under and 10 and under. Girls who want to play boys hockey will continue and should have that option. But as we grow the girls' games, we don't believe there's going to be a huge number going over to Pee Wee hockey, going back to, or staying at Pee Wee hockey because there's no checking. Those girls who want those opportunities should have them. And again, I urge you to come and listen to the girls and women's section reps, and I believe that that communication, like we've been hearing all morning, that if there's more communication, you would understand that it has come to our attention. We don't believe that those numbers are big enough for anybody on Saturday morning to affect, as they vote, to think that that's going to make such a difference in the growth and development of girls hockey. We're doing such a better job at growing those numbers. And if Pat Kelleher, Kevin Erlenbaugh is in the room at 8 and under, even we've learned in the section and around the country, we need to find better ways to grow the girls' game from the bottom up, so that we'll have girls' teams, girls who want to still play boys hockey, regardless of whether there's checking in it or not, can continue to do so.
Thank you. Jerry?
Excuse me, is this on? I guess it
Yes.
is. Kevin, I don't have a question, but may I be permitted to make a statement? Thank you very much. My name is Jerry DeMayo. I am a director from the Minnesota Hockey District. And I think it's important for us to clarify Minnesota's position relative to proposed Rule 94. Some are of the opinion that we are not in support of that rule, and that is not the case. We do not refute any of the benefits, and we encourage its adoption, but just not now. We have some concerns that we think is necessary to address, and to understand those concerns, one must realize that in Minnesota, a young hockey player steps on the ice not necessarily with the aspirations of becoming an NHL star, but with the desire of playing for Minnesota high school hockey, our premier program in the state, and eventually maybe one of the 5 D1 teams that reside in our state as well. And we fear that there could be some concerns if we were to adopt this rule today or this weekend. We'd like some opportunities to address those concerns. First of all, the girls' situation and what impact it might have. Secondly, we think that it would cause some of our members to stray away from non-USA or into non-USA hockey sanctioned programs so that they could learn the art of body checking to be better ready to compete in the high school program. We're also concerned that maybe perhaps we're merely just transferring the injury issues from peewees to bantams. And while none of those concerns may be valid, we certainly would like to have the extra time to evaluate them and make that determination. We intend to ask for the postponement of this rule until such time as those concerns may be addressed, and we would appreciate the support of this body in our effort. Thanks.
Any other comments from the, yes.
My name is Ed Sam. I'm the commissioner for Pennsylvania Interscholastic Hockey League from Western Pennsylvania, and we're fortunate enough to be in the same locale as the Pittsburgh Penguins, and their Penguins Foundation has just arranged with UPMC, which is a medical teaching research company, in, well, the school of Pitt in Pittsburgh, and with them, they have provided us with the ability for our players to receive baseline concussion testing at the right age. And after seeing everything here and listening to all the presentations and knowing how much it can affect the safety of the player, I as a commissioner, would encourage us to adopt this rule. So thank you very much.
Any last comments before I make my statement? Yes.
Are we on? Okay. Hi, my name is Brett Hedican, and I am an ex-player. I'm here as an athlete director. As a player that's played at all levels, obviously coming through the ranks of Minnesota, from the MITE program to all the way to the high school program, onto the university program, which led to the national program and eventually to 17 years in the National Hockey League. As a player, looking back at my career and things that I've seen throughout my days, obviously I am here on behalf as a player that's played at the highest level, saying to all of you and to American hockey, USA Hockey, to say I commend you for what you're doing with the American developmental model, giving these kids to play the cross ice. But onto the checking sort of circumstances is that I was not always the biggest guy when I played the game of hockey, especially in my youth years. I was one of the smallest kids on my team for many years. It wasn't until I was 17 years old when I grew 7 inches in a year that gave me the opportunity to be more physical. But that being said, I think at that age where there's such a big discrepancy in the pee-wee size kids, when I was the smallest guy looking to just avoid getting killed during the course of a game, and I really feel the skill development of my game possibly suffered during those years when I could really have been developing my skills and not had to worry about trying to just survive on the ice. So being a Minnesotan and knowing that you need more time to think about this, I don't know if I agree with that, only because the time is now to give our kids in this country the ability to continue to develop their skills. Secondly, the safety is obviously noted how impactful it is for these kids not to have the ability to respond, react to multitasking. All that fact is there as well. So give these kids the ability to continue to grow, but grow the game and work on their skills to develop them, to give us the ability to continue to grow our game in the United States. So thank you.
Thank you. One more comment, Bob Crawford.
Yeah, Bob Crawford, District Director from New England. I'm in favor of this initiative, both as a former player, coach, and in the ice rink industry. It's long overdue. We have a lot of growing that's going to happen because of this rule. We're going to learn what works, what doesn't work. But with all of the science that's behind this right now, with all of the concussion hot button issues that are out there, we need to, I think, support this rule this year because the time is now. Yes, there will be some growing pains, and yes, we will adjust to those. But our industry is asking for this. Our players, our parents are asking for it, and it is the right thing to do. I think we also need to be stronger in our advocacy of head contact. And I think that's something that is also going to grow out of this because keeping our players safe and allowing them to develop is the best thing for the health of our sport and the players that we serve. So thank you.
Thank you. You know, we've heard a lot of the science. We've heard a lot about the 11-year-old brain. We've heard a lot about skill development. This past week, I called the National Team Development Program people, their coaches there who deal with some of our best athletes. And I asked them, how is checking being performed with your group? These are our best players. What would happen if we put this rule in? How would it affect your players? And by the way, their role is to win medals. And they said, unequivocally, it's going to improve. We're having problems right now. We're getting players in that don't know how to body contact or body check. We're spending more and more time, which this should be done earlier on. For those members, and there are many members who disagree with this, let's make that statement. because it's true. Many of the local members do not. Our leadership does. Those who have studied this have. The scientists, the professional developers, by and large, do. But our members need some help. And we need to do a better job in teaching checking, body contact. By the way, it's not no check, it's body contact. We need to start saying this is body contact hockey, not no check hockey. Because there's more touch that's going to be allowed in the no check body contact divisions. We need to get that message out. So I ask you all, if you are in support of this, you need not be quiet. You need to get on the forums. You need to get on Facebook. You need to make your presentation to everyone that is affected in your area. In addition, we need to do a good job next year, if this passes, in making sure that the allowable contact is done, is trained, and is taught also to our parents. Everyone's going to be working from the same film, the same video. This is going to focus attention again on what body contact is, and it should be taught earlier. It's going to focus the attention on our coaching group and our referees to work together on the on-ice management of the game for skill development and risk reduction. So obviously I support this, but I do understand the membership's concerns. It's up to leadership to solve those concerns. Thank you.
Pete Lindbergh. All right, we've got one more session, folks. We're going to go just a little bit over, but there are not any meetings until at least 1 o'clock anyway. So Pete's got a few things to report to you on relative to governance. So I'm going to ask him to come up here real quickly, and we'll get going on it right away. Nice job, boys.
Nice job. Thank you very much. Doing great. Bill? Oh, okay. Yes. It won't be allowed until then.
Right, there may be some truth to that. But as soon as just talking to the mic nice and loud, as soon as you want to get them. Okay, everybody, in the interest of time, we are going to move right along. So hold your conversations for the hallway if you're leaving, or please sit down for just another 15 or 20 minutes. Maybe less. And I'm going to turn this microphone over to Peter Lindbergh. Thank you. Here's Pete.
Good morning. Thank you for your attention. We want to report on our governance process that's been taking place over the last year or so. As you may recall, Digger appointed a committee, a small committee of members from the legal counsel to take a look at our governance process, see where we are, what we're doing, and we have moved forward with some of our initiatives. We have drafted a new vision statement, and we are in the process of redrafting Bylaw 10, which is our dispute resolution process in our guidebook, to a simpler and more affordable, or not affordable, but easier to read and understand for our members. The next thing that we are dealing with is a redraft of our rules and regulations, and I'm going to refer to Steve Stapleton and Judy Sheldon for a brief comment. They are doing most of the legwork there, and they can give you a little bit of an idea where they stand with that redraft.
Good afternoon. Steve Stapleton, legal counsel, also from Michigan. We are, Judy and I and John Tobin and Peter are in the process of redrafting, looking at our rules and regulations to see how we can simplify them, take out some conflicting practices in there, and make it easier to read. We are in the process of doing that. We've made good progress, but between now and, say, November, or even earlier if you guys can email us if you see any rules or regulations or any bylaws that you feel are redundant, in conflict with each other, or just simply would sound better a different way, you need to email any of us and let us know that so we can try to incorporate those recommendations in there so we can have it for January. We've looked at a lot of rules and regulations, and there are things that can be done to make them sound better and conform to the way we actually do our business. Say registrar, the registrar section I know can do it, and there's just some other sections. So I'll let Judy talk a little.
I don't think I have anything to add, Steve. You summed it up very well. The important part was, please let us know if you notice anything, any section that you're working with on a regular basis that you feel needs work. We'd love to hear from you, so please let us know.
I'm going to refer to John. He might have some comments about the redraft of Bylaw 10.
Thank you, Peter. I'm John Tobin from Massachusetts, and I'm on the legal counsel. About a year ago, I took a stab at redrafting Bylaw 10. We don't have any flashy videos of courtroom scenes or Judge Judy or anything like that to liven this up. It's pretty dry. But we deal with disputes all the time. And what the purpose of redrafting Bylaw 10 is to put it, even though lawyers are writing it, to put it in some plain English so it can be followed. And so the narrative of the rule is easier to follow for people who have to deal with it every day, because we all have disputes. It's not as much fun as the stuff we've been talking about prior to this, but we all have disputes that go through our organizations that we have to give parties due process according to the Ted Stevens Amateur Sports Act. So we have to pay attention to that, but we have to do it in a way that makes sense and people can understand what we're trying to do. So we've been working on that for about a year. Hopefully there'll be some legislation by November, the deadline, so that we'll be considering it next June. And we encourage you to, when it's finally done, to study it and read it, even though it's going to be very dry, as I said. But it is important to what we do, because we deal with a lot of different stakeholders and shareholders, and they all have competing interests, and we have to have a fair way to resolve our disputes that makes sense.
Casey, you want to make comments?
I don't have anything else to add. Most of my work was in addressing the junior bylaws and rules and regulations, and then looking at and commenting on the Bylaw 10 aspects. So I don't really have anything to add. I would say I'll be available in the office here in a few weeks, and so it'll be easy to reach me and bring things to my attention to the extent you need to. So.
All right, that's pretty much our report, and we've done this about 3 times in front of a group, something like this. I can't emphasize enough that if you have some thoughts about either Bylaw 10 or the rules and regulations, please forward them to any member of this group. For the rules and regulations, that Judy Sheldon and Steve Stapleton, our addresses are in the book, and if you don't have Judy's, we can get you that. She's not a member of the legal counsel. She's a lawyer from Massachusetts that's helping us out. But either way, we need that information. If you have any input, please send it to us. We want that input. Now we're going to be, as John said, we're going to be presenting legislation in the fall, in November, but it would be very nice if, in fact, those people who are interested from our affiliate organizations, our other stakeholders, would tell us, this is a bad rule, that's a bad regulation, or I got treated badly, or I got a bad result because whatever, then we can put that in, factor that in our discussion, our deliberations, and our drafting. We need to, that input is important. We think we have some ideas, but at the same time, we know that you do as well. So I'll leave it with, get back to us. We're working, and we will have a work product available in November for all of you to review. But if you have some thoughts in the interim, please forward. Thank you. If you have any thought, by the way, any questions now, I don't want to shut the door here. Any questions now about what you either have seen or heard about our process, we'll be happy to try to answer. Thank you. Have a good lunch.